and welcome. I'm Tami, the creator of the blog and this YouTube channel called Nutmeg Notebook. And this is where we share with you all about our whole food, plant exclusive lifestyle. So welcome today. We're happy to have you here. We're so excited. We have the moderators on the other side of the computer and the camera. So this is going to be a very exciting day. We know that you guys are excited about it too. So first, just a little bit of housekeeping. Tom is moderating the chat. Thank you, Tom. And then of course we have Randi, Jessie, and Tiffany here today. And we're actually going to bring them on one at a time and do a fun little interview with them, share their stories with you. If you have questions for them, please put those in the chat. Preface your questions with 3 question marks and end with 3 question marks so that those will pop out for our big time moderator today, Tom. Thanks for being here, Tom.
Hello, everybody.
You want to say hi?
Yeah, I'm still doing sound checks. I'll talk to you in a bit.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, are we sounding good?
It might be too loud.
Oh, I might be too loud. I get excited and then I think I talk loud when that happens. So anyway, yes, we are in a different setting. So this is, I'm actually sitting at the dining room table and the living room is behind me. You can see Tom's piano back there. We've had it set up in here all week because I've been doing the 10-day fasting program through Sierra Hurst at 6D Living. And I have a Zoom call every morning. And
Sierra Hurst.
What did I say?
Sierra Hurst.
I said Sierra. Sia Hurst. Thank you. And so Tom said, well, we've already got everything set up in the dining room and we're not doing any cooking. So let's just leave it there. So this is kind of fun. You get to see a different part of the house and not just that big old refrigerator behind me today. So Tom, are you ready for me to do my introduction?
Yes, we're ready to bring on Randi.
Yeah, well, I'm going to talk about her first.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so a little bit of information about Randi from her bio that she gave us. She said, well, somewhere in there back in June of 2018, she decided that she wanted to be an example of a healthy vegan. So more people would see that you could be healthy and also be vegan. So she contacted Dr. Lim and asked about the McDougall 10-day program. He encouraged her to go to Santa Rosa, California and do the program. And that is when she decided to go whole food plant exclusive. But she still wasn't SOS free at the time. And for those of you who are not familiar with that terminology, that stands for salt, oil, and sugar free. Dr. McDougall does allow a little bit of salt in his meals. Anyway, somehow she got interested more in the health part and she started watching a lot of YouTube videos. Somehow she stumbled across Nutmeg Notebook. As she was watching live one day, I asked who would be interested in being a moderator and she volunteered. Then she goes on to say that she didn't learn her lesson in the Army to not volunteer for things. And here we are today, a few years later, sharing our plant-based journeys. Please welcome Randi to the show. We're bringing her on. There she is. Hi, Randi. Can you hear us?
Hi. Yes, I can.
Great, great. So we're so excited to have you here today. This is just great. And I just learned that she does her treadmill while she's watching our show and moderating. That is so cool.
Trying to be like Dr. Greger.
Well, everybody loves Dr. Greger. He is a great role model. So I'm just curious if you could share some of your journey into becoming vegan, like, you know, did you grow up being vegan? How did that happen? And where did you grow up?
Well, actually, I'm from upstate New York. The Binghamton area is where I grew up part of my childhood. And no, I wasn't vegan and never even knew what a vegan was, to be honest with you. And then actually I moved to Florida and lived there for a while. And anyway, somewhere along the line, I joined the Army and I moved to Nashville, Tennessee. I was stationed at Fort Campbell. And that's how I ended up in Nashville, Tennessee, which is where I've lived for the last 30 years. Basically for like 40 something years of my life, I ate the standard American diet. Somewhere along the line, I learned, about how we actually eat animals, and it just never really occurred to me that I was eating an animal. So, I decided that, I didn't want to eat animals anymore. So I became a vegetarian, and for many years, I guess probably like 5 or 6 years. I'm really bad with dates. I was a vegetarian, and then somehow, I'm not even really sure, but I learned about, the cruelty that's in dairy and eggs and everything, and I just didn't want to participate in that either. So I just decided one day that I was going to be vegan. But I was just vegan for the animals. I wasn't vegan for my health, and I didn't care if veganism was going to kill me. I was just never going to eat another animal again. But yeah, like you had mentioned, so I was just eating vegan food, and like I ate a lot of Amy's frozen meals. Like Amy was my chef, so I wasn't really much of a cook. And but anyway, honestly, the reason I ended up going to the McDougall Center is that I was having a lot of problems, like I was drinking a lot, and I felt like I needed somewhere to get out of my environment where I could still eat really healthy food. And so I went to the McDougall Center to help me basically clean up. So I basically quit drinking, quit smoking, quit everything, quit drinking coffee, and felt so much better. I really expected to go through some serious withdrawals when I was in the McDougall program, but I didn't. So, but that's where I learned about eating whole foods and how it could be healthy for me. So
when you went there, was there a lot of people your age there, or was it mostly older people?
I'd say there was mostly older people, but there was a lady there with her son. Can't remember exactly why he was there, but she was like trying to help him get healthier or whatever. But most of the people I felt were older than me, but then I also realized that I'm probably older than I think I am a lot of times. I was in my mid 40s, but I think more people are closer to their 60s.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. I've heard, we've never done the McDougall program, but I've heard a lot about it, that it was really fantastic. And did you
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
So what happened to your health during those 10 days that you were there?
Well, so my cholesterol dropped quickly. And it wasn't super high, but it, basically went down to like 125 while I was there. And then I also, I actually gained a little bit of weight, but I'd been drinking a lot, and I wasn't eating really well. So it was good for me. It's like I needed to gain some weight, so that was good. But yeah, and I just really just felt a whole lot better. I can breathe again because I quit smoking, and so it was really good.
Did you stop smoking, Randy, when you went there? Were you still smoking when you got there and then you stopped?
Yeah, I handed Dr. Lynn my pack of cigarettes.
Wow.
Well, and I had like a vape pen. I gave him that too. I was like, and he took all that. And so I just, it's like I knew I needed to quit smoking, but a lot of it is like habit. And so I just needed to get out of my environment. And so he helped me do that, So.
That's fantastic to do that. And so when you came back home then, did you maintain that McDougall type diet?
Oh yeah, sure did. I actually learned a lot from oh my goodness, what's the nutritionist guy's name? I can't remember his name all of a sudden. He's the one that
the short little guy.
He talks about, yeah, he thinks about the crap, the anyway, so I learned a lot of his recipes, like the real basic things, like you can make all kinds of things in a pot real quick, and so I use a lot of Jeff Novick. Yeah, there we go.
That's it. Jeff Novick.
Yeah. So Jeff Novick basically taught me how to cook, even though I got Kathy Fisher's cookbook when I was there, and Kathy Fisher was there, and I got to meet Chef Bravo and his cooking. But really, Jeff Novick had to pour a bunch of stuff in a pot and let it go. And that's how I was, it was like a whole lot easier. It's like, here's a bag of frozen vegetables, here's a can of beans, throw in some tomato sauce and some Italian seasoning, and throw in like a whole wheat pasta, because, they're okay with that.
Yeah.
But, and yeah, and so I basically did that.
And what year was that? That people want to know, what year did you go?
It was 2018 in August.
It was 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's asking, maybe they were there at the same time. You have another question, Tom?
Yeah, Sherry Ellison is asking, where did you attend the McDougall program?
Oh, it was in Santa Rosa.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not doing them live anymore. They're doing them all online. It's an all online program now since COVID, and they're having like really tremendous success with doing that.
Yes.
Were there any documentaries that you watched back then that helped you with you were already vegan, you knew you wanted to do that, but was there anything like that that helped you decide to go down the path of health also?
Well, I watched at some point, I watched Forks Over Knives, and I, watched Nearly Sick and Dead, I think is what the one was called, where the guy does all the juicing. Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've also seen The Game Changer since then, and I've seen some of the more crazy ones like Earthlings and Dominion that are more vegan. So yeah, I'm really into a lot of the documentaries. There's one that's come out recently that I'm trying to get a hold of. It's called They're Trying to Kill Us. Dr. Gregor's in that one, actually. So I'd like to see that.
Yeah. So tell us about your activism.
So yeah, so a lot of it, I'm a t-shirt activist. I do a lot of that.
I love your t-shirts.
Yeah. But I also, I participate in what they call the Cube of Truth. And so basically what that is, for people that don't know, is we wear the Guy Fawkes mask. And so it's like it's kind of like an anonymous thing. And we show videos of animal agriculture. And for the people who kind of show interest in the videos, like we don't like go grab people, it's like we wait for them to come to us and watch the videos. We just talk to them about, this is where your food comes from. Are you aware of this? And try to help them find ways to go vegan, and encourage them to go vegan. I also have done some protests at circuses and zoos, and protests the day after Thanksgiving, we go to a place where they sell fur coats or whatever, because it's Black Friday, everyone wants to go shopping, so we protest fur. And but I've also ended up in this program called Vegan Leaders in Corporate Management. And so one of the things they help me do is to bring in a Food for Life instructor to our office. And so back before COVID, we had a lady would come in and she would talk about, I guess this is kind of like what Tiffany does, talk about, how the health benefits of, going vegan or whole food, plant-based. And, she would cook some food and everyone would have lunch, a vegan lunch and everything. And so we did that a few times. And then, we also continued doing that virtually since COVID started, but they don't get the food, which is, really people trying the food and saying, wow, this is good. Like there was one guy that he was actually my boss, he was like, well, I'm not coming unless there's barbecue. So I got her to bring barbecue soy curls or whatever.
That's
and
awesome.
So I was like, okay, you got your barbecue, because, Tennessee is a big barbecue place.
Yeah. So were your coworkers receptive to this overall?
Well, everyone was interested in it and they learned about it, but honestly, it's like I still see people eating their pizza and other stuff, so it's like, I think a lot of it is like, it's hard to change if you're not motivated to, if you don't really see the motivation. But kind of now, like there is some, like one of my coworkers, like I'm in a group called the Green Team, and we do a lot of environmental stuff. And so I showed her the Seaspiracy documentary. And so she's gone vegan. And then I have another coworker that's also gone vegan for the environment, but I don't really care why, you know. So,
Right.
but yeah.
Hey, Tom has another question.
Dog Mom is asking, is whole food plant-based big in Nashville? Is it easy to find food out, etc.? And she's also thanking you for your military service. So, so yeah, how is the vegan world out in Nashville?
So there is a pretty good amount of vegan restaurants. In fact, I went out today for lunch at a vegan restaurant. I'm pretty sure it wasn't salt and oil free, but I would say it was, you know, rather healthy overall. Like they had like a raw pad thai and some kimchi rolls, you know, that were just like in rice paper. And but there's a lot of restaurants that are more like Southern comfort food kind of thing. So I don't really eat there so much, but there is one restaurant that I go to a lot. It's called Sunflower Cafe, and they have an oil-free menu. And so, yeah, and so, and they also basically cook the oil-free menu to order. So it's mostly salt-free too. Like, so I'll do that, but a lot of their food is all whole food. So there's some options, I would say, but it's more just vegan is the big thing, you know. And there's a lot of vegan options at non-vegan restaurants. Like you can get vegan cheese at some pizza places, you know, vegan pizzas. And there's a company here called the Beehive that makes a lot of vegan meats out of seitan. So
I'm
that's a
really
pretty big
surprised.
thing.
I'm surprised
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
you know, we are becoming more mainstream. So, you know, that is so great. So since you wear those t-shirts all the time, do you get comments from strangers about your t-shirt?
Yeah, actually I got one today when I was out walking in the neighborhood. A lady, I guess she was vegan too. She's like, or her friend was vegan. She's like, oh, look, she's got that vegan shirt, you know? But I've had some not so positive comments as well, though. So,
I wondered
for the
about
most
that.
part, yeah.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's positive. So.
And you cook now too, because you've shared some of your pictures with, we have a texting group with the moderators,
Right.
and you've shared your pictures and you cook now too. So,
right.
And how did that get started?
I blame it on you mostly.
Okay. It's a good thing. Blame me. I don't care.
I actually cook a lot of your recipes. You know, like I was telling my friend today that, you know, the breakfast sausages that we eat are your recipe. And then I make a lot of the, I like to make your pumpkin spice oat muffins, but I think because there's less bananas in them and some pumpkin, it's a little slightly easier. So I do that. And then, but, you know, honestly, a lot of times I just bake a lot of purple and Japanese sweet potatoes. I bake a lot of them. And I think Jessie's the one that told me this, that you can freeze them. So I just individually wrap them and put them in the freezer and then microwave them when I'm ready to eat one. But really,
you're batch prepping.
Yeah, but really I batch prep salads, right? And so I do like you do on Saturday. I go to the farmer's market and I get a lot of different greens and stuff, and I line up all my plasticware is what I use, and make my individual salads for the week. I love my salads. I love to do the chopped salad, which is something that you got me into.
And your salads look amazing because you put like everything in the refrigerator in your salads.
Yeah, they're kind of insane. I call it my G-bomb salad, though. I make sure I've got all the G-bombs are in there. So I get my G-bombs in for the day, first thing in the morning. So
that's fantastic. So do you have a favorite meal that you like to make?
You know, actually, I don't know if it's I like to make it, but I love to eat it. Is the Engine 2 lasagna that's got the sweet potatoes and it's got the spinach layer and then it's got the tofu with all the vegetable layer, and it's like a labor of love, and I guess most lasagnas are, but I really enjoy that. So I eat that a lot.
Super thick, that one is.
Yeah, I think it weighs like 20 pounds.
I remember, didn't you make it at Christmas time?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I remember seeing pictures of that. And you're a cat person too, right? How many kitties do you have?
Well, actually, they own me.
Okay.
And so I'm the slave to two cats. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, there's one cat actually came with the house. So she was here when I moved here and just kind of looked like she needed someone to take care of her. So she lives mostly outside. She comes in sometimes when it's cold, but she really doesn't like to be in the house. She's more of an outdoor cat. But she's got a little house out on the front porch with a heating pad in it for when it gets cold. So she likes it out there.
Aww.
Yeah. And then Pickles, he's over there in the bed, so he might make an appearance. But I got him at the animal shelter. So he looked pretty sad. And it was kind of sad because I went on a Monday, and over the weekend they had an adoption event, and he was one of two cats that were left. It's like nobody wanted him. So and he was really scraggly looking, but he doesn't look scraggly anymore for sure.
I bet
He's
not. He just
definitely-
needed some love,
yeah.
right? He just needed a little bit of love. Okay. Do you have any other questions, Tom?
You guys answered the one. There was a question about, does Jessie, officially batch cook? And Randi. It sounds like she does. So
Yes.
I think Stephanie asked that picture, and you guys kind of answered it right in real time, right after she asked it.
Okay. So then my last question for you then is, Randi, why did you say yes to moderating for us?
I didn't really know what I was getting into.
Lucky for us.
Well, like when I was in the Army, they told us never to volunteer for things, and I really didn't ever learn that lesson. I volunteer for a lot of different things, but I don't know. I guess you guys just asked, and I was like, sure, I'll do that. And I just.
Well, we're so glad that you did.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it.
Appreciate it. Oh, good. You're not complaining then. It wasn't a bad decision. Okay, that's good.
I really like it a lot.
Well,
and I'm really glad to have the community here because, because a lot of times I feel lonely in my whole food plant-based world, especially like at work when everyone just thinks I'm crazy, but even like among some of my vegan friends are kind of like, what's this no salt, oil, sugar, thing or whatever. And I'm kind of like, that's what I do. So,
right.
So it's glad to have y'all.
It's good to have people who are like-minded. It does make us feel less crazy, and it's good to have a community that we fit in with. Were you going to say something?
I'm bringing Jessie on, I think.
Okay.
There she is.
There's Jessie.
And Jessie needs to unmute if she's muted.
Well, we're glad you said yes, Randi, because we have just enjoyed getting to know you so much. Do you guys remember how long it's been since you've been moderating for us?
More than a year and a half, I think.
Year and a half? More than a year and a half. 2 years.
Okay.
Almost
It's probably been 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Randi, we're going to put you in the waiting room and hang out there and watch us on YouTube, and then we'll bring everybody back at the end.
All right. Sounds good. See y'all.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And right here.
So you didn't let me introduce her, but that's okay.
Well, okay. Smile while she introduces you.
So just a little bit from Jessie's bio. She says that her and her husband were never junk food vegans, but they didn't exclude all the unhealthy vegan foods either. And there was still some dairy in their diet into the 2000s. And although they both believed the way they ate was a boon to their health, they had somehow managed to absorb the background propaganda about so-called good oils. So in 2017, their interest in tiny homes led them to High Carb Hannah, which in turn led them to Dr. McDougall, Dr. Esselstyn, and Dr. Campbell. They bought and read the books written by the people who became their whole food plant exclusive heroes and heroines. And they started watching all the whole food plant exclusive YouTube channels that they could find. That led them to Chef AJ and to Tami and Tom, and the rest is history. They pretty much went SOFAS free. She does confess to occasional oil and sugar consumption, and her husband and her are feeling better than ever, and she's having a blast being a moderator for Tami, Tom, and Chef AJ. Jessie, welcome to the show. And you are one busy lady.
Thanks for doing this. This is wonderful. Thank you, Tami.
Yeah, well, I think it's fun for everybody to get to see your guys' faces and hear your stories. And why did you say yes when we asked if anyone would moderate for us?
You know, one of the nice things about being almost 70 is that I can always say I'm so old that I don't really remember. All I know is it was a great decision. It was a great decision, and I'm really happy I said yes. And I don't have the slightest idea of why I did it.
Okay. Well, we're so glad you did, because it's just been such a joy to get to know you. And Tom, what?
Yeah, I remember that day because we were having some trouble with trolls.
We were.
We had recently learned that we could have moderators on our channel. And we just kind of spontaneously threw that out there. And you and Randi and Tiffany all responded like within
Immediately.
10 seconds. It was like, I'll do it, and then I'll do it, and then I'll do it. And then I said, okay, well, we've got 3. We're done with that. Thank you, ladies. No more. And then you 3 have stuck this whole time. So yeah, that was very fortuitous. But yeah, it was an immediate response from all 3 of you.
It was.
To, I'm sure that they don't mind supporting the whole food plant-based message and the vegan message and everything else that we
No, that was absolutely it. I mean, Dr. McDougall's starch solution was where we gravitated when we started reading books. And you guys really stuck with the plan. I mean, you were doing SOS-free, foods that weren't as good for us, weren't beginning to creep into what you were presenting as far as recipes. You did such a good job of summarizing the philosophy behind why we're eating the way we are. And I was just really happy to be associated with what you're doing, because I think it's wonderful.
Aw, thank you. Well,
Yeah.
You have a fascinating story about how you ended up being vegan. Would you share that with the audience?
Well, it's similar to Randi in that it was because of the animals. The difference is that I started doing it back in the Stone Age when I was 21 in 1973. But I grew up in upstate New York. My mom decided to move to Colorado, and I ended up going along with her to make sure that she got to Colorado and not to, Florida, because her sense of direction was not that great. And on the drive, we drove from New York to Colorado with one of our dogs and our cat. The other dog stayed with my brother and flew out in style. But we drove, and during the drive, we went from living in upstate New York, which is largely truck farms and some dairy farms, to seeing what was really involved with the wholesale meat production and animal slaughtering industry on our drive cross country. And by the time we got to Colorado, we just both said, we're not going to eat meat anymore. We're not going to eat fish. We're not going to eat eggs. We're not going to eat chicken, nothing. The only thing that we didn't realize was as horrible as it is was the whole dairy industry. And I think in the back of our minds in 1973, we were still thinking we needed protein, right?
Yeah.
And we didn't know anything about the health story, food is medicine, or the health story behind eating vegetarian or vegan. So we just decided that's what we were going to do. And that's what I did. And that was, that was almost 50 years ago. So
that's amazing. That is amazing. And it wasn't that popular back then either.
In Colorado, it was not popular at all. Mm-hmm. It was a very different world in 1973 anywhere in this country in terms of vegetarian. I don't remember vegan being a word, to tell you the truth. I know it was, but it wasn't one that I probably even knew back then. In Colorado, you were really going against the grain. But that's kind of maybe that's kind of my personality. So that didn't bother me. I can't say that I've ever been an activist like Randi around this particular issue, except on a very personal level. So I got along fine. People definitely knew the way I ate and why I ate that way. But I didn't have any problems with it personally, because I generally don't have problems with doing something different. So it worked out.
And you've got the right personality to go against society's great norms.
Yeah, I think I do.
Well, I love that you discovered the plant-based doctors through High Carb Hannah accidentally, because she was living in a tiny house back then and had a YouTube channel about it.
Yeah, it was just serendipity. We happened to run into her because of the tiny house. She and her husband they've just finished finally building their home. But at that point, they were still they had just started living in their tiny house. And then, we started seeing her videos, which were about being SOS free and, essentially Dr. McDougall's eating plan. And that was entirely new to us as far as oils not being healthy, because like you read in the bio I gave you, we had really absorbed and, without question, pretty much accepted that there are good oils. And olive oil is one of them. At the time, that was the one that was touted. Since then, of course, other great oils have come along, right? Coconut had its day, palm had its day. And of course, by then we realized that they were not great oils. But at the time in 2017, that was new to us. And we just immediately went from High Carb Hannah to the books. And Dr. Esselstyn, T. Campbell, Dr. McDougall, Dr. Greger. And from there, we went to YouTube channels, people who were talking about doing whole food plant-based. And that's how we found you guys. So
awesome.
we kind of owe it all to High Carb Hannah.
Yes. So Anne wants to know, Jessie, how have recipes changed? Was it really oil heavy back in the 90s?
It wasn't that we were particularly oil heavy, but we didn't question that you needed oil to cook certain things. We didn't particularly eat fried foods. But when I made a soup, I started sauteing my veggies for that soup with oil. Yeah. I didn't sprinkle oil on top, but nevertheless, it all adds up. And given that oil is, kind of the linchpin of inflammation for many of us, it was a big deal for my husband and me when we stopped salt, oil, and sugar. And then, alcohol was something we had already, neither of us by that time, I had gotten past my wild younger days. And so alcohol was not part of the story at all, but salt, oil, sugar, and flour were. So that was something that was new to us, and it made a big difference. When we gave up oil, even though my husband at that time, his cholesterol level was 119, his total cholesterol, he dropped another 40 points when we stopped eating oil. And I also dropped 40 points, although I was at a much higher level. I wasn't at 119. So, and that happened coincidentally, we both went for annual checkups and got blood work done, and we were shocked. We just hadn't realized when you're not eating meat at all, we hadn't realized what an impact other foods can have on your cholesterol level, and oil is certainly the big culprit. Vegetable oil.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. That's pretty dramatic. And about how much time had passed, do you think, from when you started to when you got that blood work done?
We dropped oil out of our diet in late October, early November, I believe, of 2017. And we both had blood tests done within the next 3 months. So I don't know how quickly it happened. I believe it actually happened quicker, but we knew about it within a very short period of time and were shocked, particularly my husband. 119 is a very good total cholesterol level. So it was surprising that he could drop the same amount as I did, even though he was at a much lower starting point.
Right.
So that was just, neither of us, I mean, we've both been vegan with a little dairy. We had both been vegan with a little dairy for decades at that point. So neither of us had any significant food-related health issues, although cutting out the oil and salt definitely made a big difference. But that was just it was really a surprise.
And so
Yeah.
what did cutting out salt do for you?
For me, cutting out salt, and we weren't big salt users either, but we did, without knowing it, you're buying some canned goods, you're eating out at restaurants. So without knowing it, you're taking in more salt than you realize. For me, what I noticed was that slightly achy joints stopped aching. We didn't have any typical, what would you say? Their diet caused, but certainly they show up as you get older. We didn't have any of the typical disease conditions that people have when they get to their 50s, 60s, 70s. No diabetes, no high cholesterol, even though it was higher than after we stopped, eating oil. No heart problems. My only problem was I was a 3-pack-a-day cigarette smoker until my husband and I met and got together back in 1991. And I stopped cold turkey and gained 80 pounds. So I've had a long-term weight issue. By 2017, I had lost 50 of those 80 pounds, but I still have, the 30 of that 80 to go. And now I realize that really I should probably be even 20 less than that. So I've got a significant ways to go. My husband, however, of course, has dropped weight right and left, and he's just, he's at an optimal weight and, looking great and feeling wonderful.
It's so unfair. It's so unfair because men lose weight so much easier than we do.
Yeah.
It's just totally not fair. So Karen wants to know, Jessie, she says, no flour at all, even grinding your own oats? ?
Well, the thing is, I can't bake for anything. So I know that many people use nonstick, but I just am not a person who feels comfortable with using nonstick pans. So we're not pancake eaters. I can't bake like most people can. I inherited the unable to bake gene from my mom. She could make a box cake and have the center fall. And actually it happened many times and she'd fill it up with frosting. So there are not a whole lot of situations where I end up grinding anything to make flour. So I can't say that I'm 100% flour free because I'm sure that I have eaten some bread in the last, what has it been now, 4.5 years or so since we found SOS and SOFAS free eating. I'm not 100% compliant myself all the time. So I am sure I have had bread or dessert that's had flour in it. But as far as, no, flour is not something that I use.
Okay, that's awesome. So Stephanie Spears says, does High Carb Hannah know your influence on her influence on your food choices now that you are YouTube moderator famous?
I'm sure she has no idea. But I'm sure that a lot of people, it's just serendipity how a lot of us found our way to, for me, it wasn't vegan. That was something that was, in my past, but SOS free has made a real difference for us.
Yeah,
so
that's a great testimony. It really is. you know, especially I think your husband having such a low cholesterol to begin with.
Yeah.
And then still dropping. And somebody said in the comments that they had no idea that oil affected cholesterol.
Yeah. Well, I didn't either. Starting by the 90s, I really had learned, initially I was eating this way because of the animals. I mean, I was smoking cigarettes, I was drinking a lot of alcohol in my 20s and 30s. I wasn't concerned about my health. Yeah. I, felt relatively good. I could do anything I wanted, and I didn't even know there was an issue related to food. But somewhere along in the later 70s, 80s, and into the 90s, I did really start to learn about food as medicine, and particularly herbs, which I realized were food. And I don't know why I didn't make that whole connection, but I didn't. But by the 2000s, I was diagnosed with Graves' disease, which is, oddly enough, for a fat person, it's a hyperthyroid condition. It did not, unfortunately, assist me in losing weight, but it did end up with me seeing an endocrinologist who said that the first step for me was medication, and the second step, which she assured me would happen within a year, would be surgical removal of my thyroid. And there was no way I was going to go along with that. So I did my own research. I already, had a strong interest in and knowledge of herbs. And I found an herb called bugleweed, and I used that and successfully dealt with the Graves' disease. So she had assured me that there was no way that I would have my thyroid within a year. And that was over 20 years ago. And I'm still, still overweight. So it's not as if there is a behind the scenes hyperthyroid condition that's, working negatively on my body. This really, they have done follow-up tests. So I came to learn how important food and herbs, which are food, are to our health. So that's more of what the SOS free part of this has meant to us, is to really focus us in on the way we eat being for our own health and not just for the animals, which was always, our main focus.
Yeah. Well, our friend Linda Middlesworth, who's the president of the Sacramento Vegan Society, she always tells people, because she's also a McDougall, and she's an advocate for eating oil-free and healthy vegan. And she said, we can't save the animals if we are sick. So yes, we have to do what we can do to be as healthy as we can so we can save the animals. So we have Cheryl Atkins wants to know, do you know where I could find an article on the oil cholesterol connection?
Well, I know that Dr. Greger's books definitely have them, and I'm sure that if she was to go to nutritionfacts.org, Dr. Greger's site, that she could put a question in the search engine there, and it would point her either to some text about it or a video where Dr. Greger has spoken about it. And he pulls in the studies. I frequently will just go to the National Institutes of Health or the CDC website. I don't think that they are the only authority on things. And there are times when I may be a little skeptical of the conclusions that are drawn from some of their studies, but they are still considered to be an authority. And I do go there frequently. Now, an interesting thing is bugleweed is now recognized on the CDC website as being an herb that can assist in treating Graves' disease. 20 years later, my endocrinologist thought that I was out of my mind. Wow. She agreed to do follow-up blood tests for me, but she said to me, you're not going to succeed in this. You're going to need medication. You're going to need surgery. So times change. And, the official word on a lot of things, hopefully changes too over time as we learn more.
Yeah. Well, it just goes to show that we have to be our own best advocate.
I really believe that. And we need to be in good enough shape to do that. I mean, it doesn't help if we're starting to suffer from, just kind of a decrease in mental function, that we lose it because we don't use it, and we lose it because we don't feed it properly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We have that awareness now.
Yeah.
Annette wants to know, she's always wondered if your name, Jessie, is a nickname.
No, that is really my whole name. It's not Jessica. It's, I was named after my grandmother, and it appears to have been a name that goes back in the family some centuries, actually. So no, it's just my real, that's all there is to it, name.
That's so awesome. Okay, so let's say I see a beautiful picture behind you with a kitty cat on it. How many kitty cats do you have?
Well, right now we just have one. We've had as many as 6.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we have always had a large cat family. And as Randi said, for the most part, we have been adopted by the cats. They have moved in, they have been injured and found their way to our front door or our front yard. They belong to a neighbor who wasn't around much, and they just decided they wanted more attention than they were getting at home, that kind of thing. So right now we just have one. We've had as many as 6 since I was an adult. As a child, we had up to 14 cats, 5 dogs, ducks, raccoons, lizards, snakes, birds, the whole spectrum of different rabbits.
Oh, what a wonderful childhood.
It was absolutely great. The Campbell Mountains was a wonderful place to live. We kind of got the spillover from the, culture of New York City, but we were out in the woods. So we got the best of both worlds.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Well, Jessie, thank you so much for sharing about your journey and your life with us. And I love the colors in your house. I just love what I can see back there. It looks amazing. It just looks like you, just as I would imagine that it would look. And thank you for being one of our moderators. It's just been so amazing to get to know you. And it's just great. And one thing that you did after you guys said, yeah, we'll be moderators, is you sent us an email and said, well, you don't know anything about me, so let me share some information with you so you know who I am. And that was really great. We really appreciated that too. We're like, oh yeah, they know us, but we don't know them,
Well, I felt like that we should reassure you that you hadn't, of course you did actually pick crazy people, but I was trying to reassure you that you had not.
Well, I wouldn't say y'all are crazy. I would just say you're all fun. Very fun. Well, thank you. Tom's going to put you in the waiting room, and then we'll bring everybody back at the end.
Okay.
Thanks so much. All right. So getting ready for our next guest. Her heart, experience, and education speak for themselves. She first began her transition in 2010 upon losing one of the most important people in her life to colon cancer, her grandmother, Dorothy. To say she was the icing on the cake in Tiffany's life is putting it very mildly. She was that constant comfort of love and a giver of life-changing words of wisdom, and she will always be grateful for the years they had together. After her passing, it was then that Tiffany immediately knew that her life must change nutritionally. And thus from there, first starting as a pescatarian and then transitioning to whole food plant-based, a new life was born. Committed to this very new way of living, she immersed herself and continues to do so in plant-based learning. Let's welcome Miss Tiffany. She's coming. There she is. Hi, Tiffany. Okay, you're muted. You need to unmute.
I knew I was.
There you go.
Hello there.
Hi. And she's got her PCRM apron on because she just finished a class today, you guys. Yeah. And she's teaching people how to eat whole food, plant exclusive, oil free. And how's that going?
It's going great. So I'm teaching, it's the 21-day Vegan Kickstart course through PCRM, and we're on class number 3. And so I was excited to meet with them this particular time because last week was the first week that they were to go ahead and put their plan in action and actually eat vegan for the first time. So the first time we met, we did prep work. Last week, they put it into action. And so it was awesome to hear their success stories for eating vegan for the first time.
And are they liking the food?
Yeah, they're liking it. So far, so good. I mean, they're realizing, you can still enjoy familiar foods. You can still enjoy delicious foods. It just has a healthier twist to it. And so we're working through that, but they're doing an awesome job. And they have some really good recipes that I wrote down before we even got off. So they're off to a good start.
Oh, that's great. So give us an example of a couple things that you taught them how to make?
Well, first thing I taught them, like today, we made a tofu scramble. Because there's always what do I eat, for breakfast? They're used to, bacon, eggs, things like that. And so we worked with the tofu scramble, talked about how to season it. It's a great egg substitute, so forth, what you're looking for. So we did that. We played around with a crunchy blue tortilla salad. So we made that nice and tasty with a crunch. And then we also did fajitas. And but instead of fajita meat, of course, we use portobello mushrooms and things like that. So it's just taking the familiar and making it delicious or something that they're used to and creating it.
It sounds amazing.
Yeah, they did a good job.
It sounds amazing. Do they cook along with you? Do they get the recipes ahead of time and cook along with you? Is that what's happening?
Mm-hmm. They do get the recipes ahead of time. Some choose to cook and some not. They can do it either way. But they're absorbing everything. It's a really, really great group of participants. And so it's going well.
That's wonderful. Do you have another class set up? Are you going to be doing it again?
I am. I don't know the date yet, but it'll be probably sometime in March. It's one of my favorite classes to teach. So I know I'll take a couple weeks break and then kickstart again in March, but it's my favorite. So I'll do it again soon.
Okay. That's exciting.
Yeah.
So when we had you on before, you did share about your journey, and you have been whole food plant-based now for 12 years.
Yeah. 11 years in October. Yeah.
11 in October. Wow.
October. Yeah, so I started off pescatarian in the beginning and then transitioned, and I'm just never going to look back. It's still a whole new world, and I'm still equally excited about it as day one. There's just so much. If I could get to all the delicious recipes that exist out there, that would be great. I don't think I will. It'd take a lifetime or two, but it's so much fun over here on the other side. So
have you been able to influence family members or friends to go plant-based?
I have influenced my mom and dad, which was huge because in the beginning they just, they just kind of watched and weren't quite sure. But yeah, I've convinced them, and then our family within the household and some outside family as well. Friends, yeah, they're coming along, and they're definitely interested in having more so like meatless Mondays, those types of things. So I've made just a couple of wins. So, but they're watching and they're asking questions, or they're trying this and that. So, I'll take it.
Well, because I think any improvement in their diet is better than no improvement.
Mm-hmm.
So even if we can only get them to do meatless Mondays, hey, that's a start.
Mm-hmm. It makes a difference.
That is a very good start.
Yeah. And you have to meet people where they are. Sometimes they just only want to test out things once or twice a week. And I just think that's 1 or 2 days where you did not consume anything harmful to your body. So I'll take that.
That absolutely. And saved an animal or two as well.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So, Tom, did you have a question?
Can you read it? It's right here.
So TS wants to know a question for all the mods, if they want to answer. Are any of them doing Is program along with Tami? And if so, how is it going? Yep.
Tami and I will have a story. Man, it's going to be awesome whenever we get over this journey. Yes, I am doing it along with Tami, doing Is 10-day modified fasting program. And long story short, it's amazing, and I'm enjoying it. It's a challenge, a good challenge, and I'm glad I signed up for it.
Yeah, me too. It has been incredible. We're actually loving it.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us, Tiffany, what are some of your kids' favorite things that you make?
Well, they love the tofu scramble. They like that. They love any kind of Buddha bowl I do. Buddha bowls are my favorite, and so they've just kind of adopted that as well. I think they like, well, they're teenagers, so they like the fact that they can, pick and choose what they want in their bowl. So one will have a little bit of corn, and one wants broccoli, and one wants carrots or whatever. So they like that they get to choose the variety within their meal. They do love the portobello fajitas. That's a favorite in our house. Goodness, they love a really good soup that I do. It's like a bean chili soup. We love soups here. So they're really easy to please as long as it tastes good. They're not picky teenagers like you would think. So I'm happy about that.
Yeah. And you're in Texas, and Texans really love their barbecue. And so are there very many vegans there? Do you have options to go to restaurants?
We do. We have, yes, we do love our barbecue here. So, but surprisingly, we have quite a few options, and it's grown here in the past maybe 5 years, this explosion of vegan restaurants. There's one in particular, there are a couple in particular that are just strictly whole food, plant-based, and so that's awesome. But I've really seen a rise in the past 5 years, and so I have variety. We have choices now. 10 years ago, we probably didn't have as many. Now it's pretty popular in some areas in the Dallas area.
That's exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, finally.
Yeah. Well, I think, it is becoming more mainstream. And so places, even, places in the Midwest, like my parents live in Nebraska of all places, and there's vegan restaurants there. So, I feel like, we're becoming more popular. It's starting to happen for us. What are the challenges for you being whole food plant-based? Do you have any challenges?
No, I don't have any challenges. I would say, I guess my challenge is I just want everybody to adopt this lifestyle in some form of fashion. So it's not really a challenge, but more so, man, that's just like something I wish would really, really happen, whether you adopt it 100% or, 50%. Now that's the challenge. The challenge is just seeing people eat foods that I know are harmful, or be in a certain situation to where, maybe if we change what's on your plate, we can see changes on the other side. So that's kind of I would call it challenge for me, because it's, once we know this information and what food can do, it's tough when you see people still eating the other way. And so
it is, it makes you sad.
Yeah. So that would be a challenge for me, but
okay,
we'll get them eventually.
I love your attitude, girl.
Yeah.
Kathy Taylor has a question. She wants to know if your kids and your husband eat this way.
They do. I transitioned them later because I knew nothing about it. So I wanted to figure out what was going on. And so I kind of brought them along with me slowly once I figured everything out. And yes, they do. And I'm happy about that.
Absolutely. And Hildy wants to know, what is Pcrm?
Hey, Hildy. Pcrm stands for the Physicians Committee of Responsible Medicine. It is created and headed by Dr. Neil Barnard, and it's a nutrition and education program where, long story short, the Food for Life program with Pcrm actually teaches people how to cook nutritionally to try to reverse or prevent certain diseases or illnesses. And so we do that by showing them how to cook. And so as a Food for Life instructor, you actually have to apply. and be selected. And if you are, there's a training and intense training and things like that to understand the curriculum to be able to teach. But it's a wonderful website if you haven't visited already. There are a lot of great recipes on there for breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, you name it. And it's a really good resource for someone who's interested in trying whole food, plant-based eating. They need, recipes, ideas. It's a great place for support as well. So I'd highly recommend checking it out if you haven't already.
Yep. So we have another question. TS wants to know if Tiffany's had, since you're in Texas, did you have any problems with the storms?
Oh, yes. So today's the first day, really, we can kind of move around a little bit, maybe at the end of yesterday. But yeah, we had an ice storm come in. I guess that was because they closed school down for Tuesday and Wednesday. So Wednesday, the rain came, and by the time we woke up, it was snow and ice. So that lasted for a couple of days, but we were able to move around today. So we survived it. It was better than what happened last year. So.
That's good. We're glad you're safe. We're glad you weren't one of those people out on the roads that, had crashes and stuff. We saw the pictures. It looked awful.
Yeah.
Kathy Taylor wants to know, Tiffany, she says, you are stunningly beautiful. Did you ever do modeling? I have to agree with her.
Thank you, Kathy, Tami. No modeling. And I blame all the beauty on the plants.
Aw. Well, your mother and father might like to take a little bit of credit too.
I'm going to say, I would have gotten in trouble. I must get the genes from my mom and dad. Okay.
That's right. That's right. You got it. They did a good job.
Thank you.
Okay, good job. So what, when you make those bowls, can you talk a little bit about how you food prep for the family for the week? Because you're feeding 4 people, and growing teenagers eat a ton of food. Mm-hmm. So how do you do that and not be in the kitchen constantly?
Yeah, so my Sundays, hang on, I got a busy. Hey, shh. Kids.
It's family.
I was going to be on. No, sorry about that. No, Sundays are my prep day. And so I just prep from maybe about noon and keep going until all of the food is done. But, I start with the grain. I'll cook a big thing of grain, and then we'll always we do a prep salad and different types of beans. I might do a soup. And so I just cook everything at one time and then just have it ready to go in containers, or just set for when we're ready to eat dinner. I do it all at once. Not a short order cook. So this is what we're having and this is what we're going to eat. And, we have it ready to go, and it works.
And so what kinds of things do your kids take for lunch then?
They're a big fan of chickpea untuna sandwiches. So they love that. And I'll probably make that later on tonight for them, but it's just made with the garbanzo beans, maybe a little bit of tahini, put in some onion, a little bit of cumin and paprika, something like that. And I'll put that in like a huge food processor, because they eat a lot of it. So that's their favorite sandwich. So we probably make that pretty much every week. If not, they love hummus wraps with veggies, things like that. But for the most part, they kind of know what they like. So it's probably 9 times out of 10 going to be an untuna salad.
It sounds wonderful. I would love that too. Jessie says, am I remembering correctly that Tiffany did the T. Colin Campbell certificate program?
I did. Ooh,
what did you think of that?
I'm trying to remember. Was that? I did maybe 4 years ago, something like that. I loved it. The information was phenomenal. It's a lot to soak in, because the level of teaching and the in-depth level that they take you is it's pretty amazing. I found it to be very thorough. You're learning from Dr. Campbell, of course, and others that are just as credible in the industry. And I loved it. If I could do it again, I would. It was just that life-changing. And the good thing is that you have access to all of that information that you learned throughout the program. So it was worth it just to be able to have that and be able to go back and look at and kind of research more. But I mean, I'd highly recommend it, and I would do it again if I had to.
Was it time intensive?
It was about what you made it. I would say during the week, I don't know, maybe about 4 days a week, maybe about 4 hours, but it just depends on how intense you want to do it. I just wanted to sit down and understand it. And so normally when I sit down, I just keep reading. But it's doable. It's doable.
Right. And then Hildy wants to know, Tiffany, what changes did you notice in yourself from before you were whole food plant-based to now?
It's a good question, Hildy. So first thing I noticed was just my energy. So you don't realize you're fatigued until you eat the right thing, and then you have this energy, or you don't feel like you need to go take a nap or go to bed or have eater's remorse. I didn't have any of those things, and so that for me was a big thing. I didn't realize how sluggish maybe I was, so that was right off the bat. Sleeping better. That was great. I wasn't a big sleeper, but I definitely slept better after the change in diet. Your body looks a little differently. The scale changes, and you just realize, wow, okay, well, maybe those pounds that were there were from the things I was eating. You don't really worry about it, but when you see it, it just kind of makes sense. I mean, you kind of transform from the inside outside, and it was a great transformation. But definitely having more energy was like number one that I noticed.
Yeah, and I think that's something that a lot of people state. Brenda wants to know, were you ever overweight before you went whole food plant-based?
Not necessarily. Now, when I went off to college, they say you gain the freshman 10. I definitely did do that. I probably gained the freshman 10 and then some. But I think that was just because I was, living on my own and not cooking, and ate all these horrible things in college. So I was a little hefty then, but not necessarily overweight, but I feel comfortable now, definitely in my skin, whole food plant-based.
Awesome. And you look amazing.
Oh, thank you.
So TS wants to know, since Tiffany's teaching cooking, does she have any thoughts for or against using cast iron for cooking or aluminum cookware?
Oh, yeah, the verdict is still out on that. I'm still trying to see where I stand on that, actually. So
yeah, it's very controversial and a lot of different opinions. There's one up there further up. We went past there, Tom. No, come down. Gina wants to know, of all the courses and certificates that you have, which do you think was the most valuable for coaching, being able to coach others?
I like that question.
Yeah, that's a good one, huh?
That's a very good one. So I value them all. So that's a tough question, but perhaps the one from, oh gosh, that's tough. Perhaps the one from, I don't know which one. Okay, I would say well coaches.
Coaches.
Yeah, well coaches. And then after that would be another one, but I'll say that's number one. It's important to understand the psychology of how people think, and to be able to meet them where they are, with a particular method or understanding or strategy. So it's important to meet people where they are, but you have to know how to do that. And I guess I found with well coaches is it really laid everything out as far as how to deal with different personalities, different struggles that people may be going through. It's not as easy as you think, to try to help someone go through that, or try to conquer whatever they're going through. And understanding how to do that on a deeper level was important to me. because in my
Okay.
mind, you think you can help people, but sometimes there is a way to do that to be effective. And that was important for me to learn how to do that effectively.
Okay, that's great. So, is it Vegana? Vegana wants to know if the tea calling Campbell course is doable if you're working full time.
Absolutely. It is. You'll just pick and choose your schedule. You can, so if you're working full time, I forgot what they said that was, but don't quote me on this. I'd have to go back and look, maybe a couple hours a week, maybe 2 hours a week. If you had a full-time schedule, I'd have to go back and see. But it's doable. Yes.
Okay, good. Lisa Farron says, Tiffany, what's your favorite go-to meal?
Buddha bowls. Because I just, they're easy. I like to layer it with my green. I'm getting everything that I need. I'm getting my greens, my grains. I'm a huge bean lover, so I might do a couple of different beans. And it's a meal that I can just create whatever flavor that I want. If I wanted to have a Greek type of flavor, I can do that. Or a type of curry chipotle type of flavor, I can do that. So, it's a blank canvas for me. So that's why I always go to it first and see what I'm in the mood for.
Well, and that way you can please the whole family too, because everybody gets to pick and choose.
Yes.
So that makes it easy, especially if you have picky eaters. Then I think any kind of foodie bar or little buffet is the best way to go. I love those too, because I like a variety of different things in my bowl all at once. So last question before we bring everybody back. Why did you say yes to moderating when Tom asked, would anybody like to moderate?
How can you not? I mean, you meet Tami, you meet Tom. I mean, you automatically fall in love. But what I was most drawn to is your passion towards the plant community and getting the information out.
And how did you find us?
I don't know. Something popped up on Facebook one day, and I don't know. And just, you're everywhere. Nutmeg Notebook, you're everywhere. I was like, what's that? And so anyway, I became a viewer myself, and you just fall in love with your passion. And you've definitely helped me along the way and given me ideas. And so, I mean, how can you not want to be a part of that? That's a no-brainer. That was a no-brainer for me. So.
Well, we're so glad that you said yes, because you have richly added to our lives, and we're so glad that we've gotten to know you. One more question. TS wants to know, do you have an easy go-to breakfast?
Ooh, easy go-to breakfast. Yes, I love breakfast burritos. So easy. Hope it's easy enough, but for me, I'm thinking I will do like a black bean or a pinto bean, and I'll do some sauteed onions and peppers, maybe a little avocado, maybe wrap that up in a whole grain tortilla, and that's a go-to. That's a go-to. I'm not a big breakfast person, but when I do want breakfast, that's a quick grab.
So Susan Johnston wants to know if you could share a few specific change strategies that you learned from one of your coaching programs.
Ooh.
Or is that a whole other class?
That's probably a whole class.
Probably a whole class. So one in particular that I'm a huge very fond of, is when you first have a coaching session with someone, first thing you want to know is, how did their week go? Right? And if it wasn't a great week, it wasn't a great week. So one of the things that we were taught is to just embrace that. You don't want to brush over anyone's experience because it was their experience. You want to just let them have that moment and acknowledge it, and then try to move on to the next thing. But that's one of the strategies that I like, because I think just even in my own world growing up, maybe most people, when you hear some people had a bad day, oh, that's okay, it'll be better tomorrow, but it's a little bit deeper than that. And saying that's okay kind of brushes away what they really experienced. And you have to let them be there, and you have to not necessarily indulge yourself in it. It's not a pity party, but you have to give them that moment because that's what they experienced. And you'll find that the conversation is a little bit easier to get through if you acknowledge and let them say and understand it's okay. It was a bad day, or it was a bad choice, or whatever. Let them grasp that. So that's
I love that.
Yeah,
that's great. You got to have compassion, and you have to acknowledge it and not ignore it.
you do.
Good advice. But we're going to bring back the other moderators now.
Ooh.
Randi. There she is, Miss Jessie. So somebody asked in the chat, so you guys have never met in person? No, we have not. We have Zoom chatted before. We text all the time and share pictures and stuff, but no, we have never met in person. But one of these days we will.
One day I'm going to go to Randi's house, and I'm going to borrow and not give back all of her vegan shirts, because I'm a huge vegan shirt fan. And I thought I had a good wardrobe until I met Randi. And so I'm a little jealous. And so one day I'm just going to take all her vegan shirts. And so I'll be happy.
Randi cost you a lot of money, because every time you see one of her cool vegan shirts, you have to buy it.
Randi is an expensive friend, and I'm glad Jessie keeps us level-headed, because Randi, I don't know. Randi's high maintenance. I don't know. She's a high maintenance.
Randi likes to shop.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Randi and Tiffany have the shopping gene for sure. They share that entire, well, that and burn camp, right?
Yes.
I mean, the work
Yes.
gene and the shopping gene.
Yes. What you guys don't know is these two are so athletic, and they just, like, Jessie and I just sit and cry looking at the stuff that they do every day at their gym workouts. It's amazing. And what time do you go, Randi?
The class I go to is at 5:15 a.m.
Yeah, see, she's just, I mean, that takes dedication to get up in the cold and go to a 5:15 class that works you to death.
Randi's
then- really-
stronger than I am.
And Tiffany, what time do you go?
Well, not as early as Randi. I go about 9:30 a.m.
Okay. Well, you have to get kids off to school, though. That's a good
right.
excuse.
Yeah. So.
And then how long are
Sometimes I
you
go
guys
to
at the gym? 4:30 a.m.?
Yeah, and then I do like a back-to-back class, because they have a 4:30 express camp that goes to 5, and then I'll do the 5:15 that just goes to 6. So normally, though, I only do the 1 45-minute class, but some days, like on cardio days, I'll do 2.
Wow. Hey, do you have a stand-up desk?
I do. I'm standing. Yep.
You're at that. Okay, so do you do the treadmill too when you're working?
Yes.
And are you still working from home because of COVID, or are you going to the office?
I'm working from home because of COVID. We're welcome to come to the office, but no one from my team goes. So it's kind of like I can work from home by myself, or I can work at the office by myself. So I choose to work at home so I can have my big ass salad.
What time do you guys, okay, so I know Tiffany doesn't typically eat breakfast. Randi, Jessie, do you guys eat breakfast?
We
Yes,
only
I
eat
do.
break fast somewhere between 11 a.m. and 1:30 p.m. And
Okay.
second meal of the day, whatever you want to call that, somewhere between 5:30 and 7. So we are doing inadvertently, we do intermittent fasting all the time.
Yeah.
And of course, everybody knows, because I'm always talking about it, that our favorite breakfast meal is sauteed vegetables and oat groats. And that's just, Richard cooks the oat groats stovetop, and I usually have about 1/4 cup of cooked oat groats and a whole I almost said a bad word, a whole bunch of sauteed vegetables, whatever, you know, it could be ginger broccoli, it could be some sort of zucchini, corn, cabbage concoction with whatever fresh veggies we have around. Snap peas are just wonderful. So that's our breakfast. And then dinner can be just raw vegetables as a salad or another saute or, you know, load of stuff. And you guys, the photographs of your food, I mean, I just want to go and eat there because we eat pretty simple. It's not, you know, I don't follow recipes. I just tend to throw in a lot of spices and a lot of veggies. But wow, the food, the photos that I see from you three.
And I think your food always looks amazing, Jessie. And so what time do you eat your first meal of the day, Randi?
So I normally eat my first meal at 6:30 in the morning, but I do kind of like Dr. Greger's, like load the calories up in the morning kind of thing. And so I do an intermittent fast, but on the other half of the day. Yeah. So I get up actually pretty early, like 3:30 in the morning, and I prep my salad and get everything ready before I go to the gym. And so when I come home from the gym, I clean up real quick and get my salad, and I sit down for my 6:45 a.m. meeting. And because it's I deal with people, I work with people that are in France and India, so I give my daily update that I need to give, and then I turn off my camera and eat salad.
And it's huge too, you guys. Like, she makes this like huge bowl, and it's just like crammed with every vegetable you can imagine. They always look amazing. And fruit.
Yeah, and I also have my grains and my beans. Like I said, it's a G-bomb salad. I've got my mushrooms and all that's in there. So
it looks fantastic. So Tiff, what time is your first meal of the day?
By 1 o'clock.
And that's always a salad, right?
Yeah, always a salad. I have to have my salad. That's a non-negotiable. So that's just going to happen. And I love it. And I did not like salads growing up. I didn't like salads as an adult. So it wasn't until I transitioned that I began to like salads. And so now it has to happen every day.
Yeah. So what's your favorite stuff to put in your salad? Because your photos are just like magazine worthy. They look amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Anything. I don't even have a favorite. I just want lots of greens. So I love arugula. I like the spiciness that it gives to my salads. I like chickpeas. Chickpeas would be my favorite beans. So that's probably in there. I got to have a red onion. I don't know. I'm kind of picky about my onions when it comes to a salad. So I only want a red onion. I don't like a yellow onion or anything. I don't know. So odd, just the flavor for me. My goodness, carrots, cherry tomatoes, you just name it. I put it in there. You know, it doesn't get any better than that. And it's huge. It's the size of my head. And
it is.
I wouldn't have it any other way. And then of course you introduced me to the Holland bowl, which takes salads to a whole nother level. And no,
we do love our chopped salad.
You got to do it.
Yeah, it's amazing. Is there do you have any more questions? You check the
no questions, but you know, just in general, the central theme in the chat feed here, ladies, is that everyone that participates our program really appreciates what all three of you do. So so many thank yous to all three of you coming from the chat feed, and of course from Tami and I. So thank you again for you know, grabbing the ball and running with it. You know, and it's far more than just troll hunting. You know, we have fun, you know, talking about, you know, taking out the bots or the trolls or whatever, but you three do far more than just taking out a few trolls. So thank you for that.
Yeah, well, they answer tons of questions because they're all three so knowledgeable about the plant-based lifestyle. So you guys answer questions, and it's a workout. And now with knowing what time Randi gets up, I understand why she wants to go to bed so early.
So if you enjoyed meeting our moderators, please give them a thumbs up.
Yes, that's right.
Usually one of the moderators puts that in the chat somewhere, but they were busy tonight.
Well, we didn't want to, at least I didn't want to toot my own horn. I was like, well, okay.
But we can ask. Give them a thumb. If you like the moderators, give them a thumbs up. This has been so much fun to have everybody together. So after we had Tiffany on the show, Tom and I had thought, oh, it'd be fun to have everybody, but do you think they would do it? And then Tiffany asked me about it, I don't know, a week or so ago, recently. Do you think we could do a show with all the moderators? I was like, well, we've thought about it, but we were afraid to ask. She's like, the worst thing is they could say no. Okay, well, let's ask. So we're so glad that you guys were all agreeable. I think it's just really fun for the community here to get to see your faces, hear your voice, it just makes it all that much more personable, and it just increases the coziness, I guess, that we have with the community here. And, when we don't do a live show, we miss it because we miss being with you guys and everybody in the chat feed. And, we're getting
exploding with thumbs up.
We're exploding with thumbs up. And, I just feel like collectively we have created just a wonderful, warm and welcoming place for people to come to. And we, oftentimes have new people like we do today, people who are new to the plant-based community. And so you guys have really helped create a beautiful place and a welcoming place for them. So we just can't thank you enough. And we so look forward to meeting you guys in person one of these days. So we'll have to be plotting and planning how that's all going to happen.
That would be
We're
wonderful.
coming to your house.
Yeah.
Right.
Every meal will be at Tammy's house. That's just, we're just putting that out there.
Well, I wanted to go to Tiffany's because I want to cook in that kitchen. Look at that kitchen that girl has.
Don't look in the sink. So I'm glad the cameras are right here.
Well, you've been cooking. You just got done doing a class.
So I'm going to put them in the waiting room so that we can finish up. And then...
Okay, we're going to put you guys in the waiting room, and then we'll be back with you after we say bye.
Okay.
So much fun. Well, we want to thank everyone for joining us today. This has just been absolutely amazing. What do you need me to do?
I hadn't moved everybody to the
Oh,
waiting.
here,
I can only do one
go
at a
down,
time.
right there. There you go.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining us today. This was really fun. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed it. Are you going to come on camera with me?
I can. I just have to remember to look over here.
I know. So we hope that you will join us next Sunday. We will be on live as well. And if you haven't already, please go to nutmegnotebook.com and subscribe, because Tom sends out an email letting everybody know what time we're going to go live and who's going to be on the show and what the subject is. And then if there's anything newsworthy happening in the plant-based community, we like to tell you about that. And
in today's newsletter, I did tag on or trained on the Truth About Weight Loss summit. Starts February 12th, which is today's the 6th. So it's in 6 days if the math is good. And Tami is on the last day, on February 20th, she's doing her presentation and cooking demonstration. I think I'm in that too, right?
Yeah, we did an interview, a joint interview.
Yeah, so she's closing down the show with Dr. Neil Bernard and the young Dr. Campbell, I think.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we're looking forward to having that. So please do sign up. The sign-up's for free.
And if you aren't currently subscribing to our newsletter, then just go to the Nutmeg Notebook Facebook page, and pinned at the top of the page is the link to sign up. And it's a free summit. It's 8 days of amazing speakers, and each one of them is going to give hints and tips and their perspective on how to have successful, sustainable weight loss eating plant-based.
Yes. So that's what I have on that.
Okay, great.
Okay.
So, and I will be doing another update this coming week about how the intermittent fasting is going, and let you know how I'm doing on that. And I had a great day today, and I'm feeling wonderful. And so I'll keep you updated on how that's going.
Very good.
Okay, so I'm Tami,
And I'm Tom.
and we help you
Get
get healthy and stay healthy, one meal at a time.
One meal at a time. I'm late.
What happened?
I had a brain freeze. Okay.
All right.
I'll try again next week.
If you liked this video, give us a thumbs up. Thanks so much, you guys. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.